Hey guys, Sam, back again with you here in just this absolute smorgasbord of the crypto space, just lit up green everywhere. Just amazing to see. So really, it becomes a matter of, well, where do I want to focus my attention or direct some resources? So when you're faced with this, it really becomes a matter of sort of a process of elimination. So for me, I want to stay with majors. I want to stay with large market cap. I want to see a lot of volume. And I'm seeing some names here that have been dormant or just going sideways to lower for so long. It's nice to see some sparks here. And I want to see commonality here against the dollar and against Bitcoin. One that I haven't looked at for a while that used to be just great to trade and very technical is LISK. Now LISK, look at it here against Bitcoin as well. So here we are. So it's really in the top, 15-ish, up 33% today against Bitcoin and against the dollar, 28%. So big move. Now this is, really a major contender. LISK over here. I'm over here on CoinGecko, where I always like to refer you guys. 62 on their scale. I always tell you guys to be looking for scores of 50 or higher on their scoring metric. So this is we're 651 million market cap, 62 on the scale. This is a major crypto. So let's go take a look at it. Now, some good things to learn here. Now, this is LISK against the dollar. All right, I'm a 4-hour here, and just to mix it up, I've got Poloniex up. So let me get that pivot up here. So we can see, we had this nice one. So I'll make this distinction here. So we've got a 1, a 2, 3, and then I'm calling this a truncated fifth, and the reason for that is the depth of this move here and the height of that reaction. So I think if you look a little more closely, you can see we get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to complete the 3, and then we get this screaming rip up here, and we get just very very shy of the prior high. So I think likely what you have there is the truncated fifth, which is, it's not uncommon. We've seen it a lot in crypto. And then we start our ABC down. Now, take note here how technical this has been. So if I'm pulling, let me get it nailed in. If I'm pulling from my swing low here to my swing high, we come right to the 618. We go just a little bit through for our pocket, 618 to 65. Then we scream up and go in the opposite direction. Then we go right to the pocket on the other side, 618 to 65. Then we start this corrective to finish the C wave here. We get a 5-wave structure, but yet again we get a truncated fifth, both in this 5-wave sequence. We don't get a new low here for the 5, and we also get a truncated C wave here, as we don't get a new low for the C relative to the A wave. Again, it's not uncommon, but given the size of the move that we're looking at today, you might do a little bit of analysis and say, well, can I build a little evidence for that low? So we would do the major pivots, of course. So I'd pull from my B high here. I'd go down and check the 3. Okay, we go right to the 50 and I'm checking for that because it's a diagonal, right? So in a diagonal, we want to check the distance from the start of the 5 count to the 3 low. We go right to the Vegas wave, right to the 50. We come down, we fail. We don't get to the negative 23, and now we're getting this reaction. Well, then I'd want to look at some other relationships here. So if I look from what I'm calling now our 5 here to our A low to our B high. Well, that if I wiggle this here, do you see how that comes up? Here's our 618 of that entire move. Right? So contender, right, for this to be a good pivot, but in the context of the 5, then I got to look again and say, well, can I find any other relationship here? I'd look for the 2 a little short. Then again, I'd look for from the 2, come here, from the 2 to the 3, projected from the 4. So we get this window down here. that was shaping up that we've just come short of it. So, you know, makes me a little suspect of this low, but given this reaction and how extreme it's been, you know, certainly is one to pay attention to, and I want to see this start to go impulsive, and we would just leave this, as we've seen it across crypto, you know, all of this year, some truncated moves where we're not getting completion, and then we're getting a pretty strong reaction. So we cannot yet call this completely done, because, of course, we've got to consider, now let me take some of this off, just to strip it bare. Right, we are still within an internal retracement here. We've come to the 618 once here, and I, again, challenged it here. Now we're getting this reaction, but we have to consider the all the way back. Well, we'd go here actually, because that's the lowest low. Coming up to challenge the 50 again. So we're going to need to, you know, this is going to need to show itself. We're going to have to get up here. Now we may likely run into some resistance again at the 50, but then we're going to need to see, you know, some sort of a pullback here that holds, gives us a higher low, and then, you know, we would be going up for the third. So if this is going to stay as a truncated fifth, which, you know, question mark on that, then we get an impulsive move here. We'd look for the first retracement. That's a potential entry on that trade. Look, you know, perhaps right here is not a bad place, actually, and I'm just kind of freestyling these, but just because you're getting that prior resistance potentially providing some support there. So this has been, you can see this, this is always a good thing to do if you're looking at a potential pivot. You know, just put a line across and see what you intersect, you know, looking left across the chart. So support, resistance, you know, this is an area that you'd want to consider. So, you know, it's too soon to call this, whatever this move is, complete. We don't know where that ends, but when we start a retracement that gets at least, you know, we'd want to look for 50, because if it's going to be a 2, we'd want to at least see go 50% deep. Then we look at that, and maybe we go down to a smaller scale and see if we can fine-tune it for a potential 2 entry, looking to rip for a 3, because we've got some upside targets here. You know, if this count is going to hold, or even just this fib pull from low to high. You know, here's our 618 that we got here, and this is our first target up here. So we've got some good upside, and then, you know, significant targets higher. So then it becomes a question of, well, do I want to trade this against the dollar or against Bitcoin? Again, as I get so many people asking me to look at these against Bitcoin, I thought I'd go over here and do the same thing. So here, you know, again, some sort of impulsive structure. You know, we get you know, this triple, almost a quadruple top up here. So this clearly was pretty stiff resistance. So whether we call this 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, truncated fifth, we don't get a new high, but I mean, it actually doesn't really matter to us as we sit here now coming down. So we know we're going to run into some resistance if we get back up there. Now we start some sort of a corrective action here, and it looks like we go into a triangle, because we get an A, then we get a 3-wave B, the C, you know, fails up for, so it looks like we go into a triangle. That's the likely contender there before we start this move down. Now, good learning example here. Now, when this starts, we want to see if it's technical, and by that I mean our algo's in. So the way we determine that is we just start pulling fibs to see what the relationships look like. So I'm just going to go here from this last pivot high that we go, which would be the A, B, C, D, E, last swing up. Now we start heading down. So here's the first pull. Okay, we go to the 50. To the negative 23, to the negative 23, so target is hit. Then we'd go a little bit lower and look again. Well, then I'd pull from our next swing. Here's the 50, right? So all I did was take let me move it up a little. All I did was take the last swing high before we went down, where we had the reaction. Now I'm going to the new low, right to the 50, to the 23, negative 618, we get a reaction, ends up going all the way to the negative 100, and then look below to the tick, almost to the tick. Is that, yeah, damn near to the tick? Well, it's a 4-hour, but that to the negative 618. All right, so incredibly technical. But let's keep checking to see how this played going down. So then I'd go to that low. I'd go to this 2, to the 50, to the tick, to the negative 23, target hit. Right, then we'd check the last one, and I'll leave that on just so you can see it. So pulling from the 4 to that low, we get to the 50. A little shy here, but looks like that we've had it. It's been technical the entire way down. Well, then we'd kind of evaluate whether or not we get. Where's my 1 here? So, do we get a 1 to the 4 to the 100% to the tick? Right. So you get this very nice technical structure here. We have this big cluster down here, and it's been technical the whole way down. So I've got an Elliott count that nails it to the tick. I've got fib pulls all the way down. So really, the point of all of that is to be building a case for this to be a hard pivot. Now look at this reaction we get here. We're to the Vegas wave, starting to get a little resistance there. So if I start to pull some of this off, because we now know we've got a good pivot down here to work from. Well, now we say, okay, well, do we have potentially a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which would tell us. Okay, well, this long correction is over, and now potentially we've gone into our first 1 wave, because if we're going to get this, right, so then it becomes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me just put it larger degree. We'll go to a minor. Do you see that? Right. So now, I mean, it's tradable here because we potentially have just what we like to see. We get a 1, 2. We get a higher low, and then we scream up for this. Well, and then we start measuring. I'll take it down to an hourly. Blow it up here a little bit, so this you get a little bit more clarity in what we're seeing here. So here's our 1. And that's probably, again, it looks like we get a truncated 1 here. Doesn't quite get the high, but that gives us a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks like that plays as a leading diagonal and shy of just a tick or two. Then we get our little corrective action here. So we start measuring for likely targets. Well, we know that the most common target, I go to the for that third wave, is the 1618 to the 175. We get there, stall a little bit, and then we get a retracement. So now I would look at this and say, well, likely that's my 3. That's my 4. It's very shallow, but on this scale, then I would look at, here's my 5th. So potentially you've got a completed 5-wave structure there. Now I draw again, looking for a relationship between the 1 from the 4. So if I take my 1 from my 4, okay, we're running pretty hot here. So I could look again to the 3. Yeah, I mean, we're to and through. So, I mean, you've got a good contender here for this to be our 1 wave. So if we look at that, there's the 1. Now we're waiting for the 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'd be looking at this as an all the way halfway back. Nah, shit, hang on. So from our low, if this is going to be our high, and we don't know yet, it could keep going here, but you've got good contender down here. Here's your 50. We get this little cluster. Likely targets on that first pullback are going to be between the 3rd wave and the 4th wave. So you've got that little outline, and then your next buy zone would be down here between the 50 and the 618. We don't need this anymore, so we can take that off. So you draw the box, right? And there's our little Vegas wave. So we may have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is in, but again, we could easily keep going here. We might relabel that. We might end up, it's too soon to call that high. But this is absolutely one to be watching. If we start to pull back here, then LISK is a contender because we're just getting started. If indeed these long corrections are over and we're just going to start rolling here into new impulsive structure, wow, is there a lot of opportunity here setting up across the whole cryptosphere. So just a good one to learn from, a good way to try and identify some of these swings. It's been a little, it's unusual in traditional Elliott wave analysis to see so many truncated fists, but we're getting them all across the entire crypto sphere. So since we're seeing them, we don't want to be surprised if we continue to see them. So I would consider this a market in play, one to be absolutely watching. We know it's been incredibly technical on the way down, so no reason to doubt that will not continue. So here's a reasonable place to be looking for this. Of course, we may adjust that based on where this ends up topping here, and we might expect that to be relational to some of these prior swings. So we'd be too hot from this swing, but we'd consider some of these prior swings. So that 2 to the 5. So we're to the 50 there. That's a reasonable spot to be running into some resistance. We get through this, then we're off to the races. Then we've got a good impulsive move coming off of these lows, and that would absolutely be one that potentially gives us a clear roadmap and entry points along the way that will have reasonable risk. In terms of that spread between the 50 to the 618 or the 65 for the stop. So good entry potential with huge reward. So risk reward very favorable, lots of opportunity. Is this an aberrant day where we've got everything up today? I mean, you just, who knows? But you go with it until you see evidence to the contrary. Right now, things are just moving. By the way, look how well the Vegas wave contained this on the way down. Right, keep that on your charts. That is really powerful. I borrowed that from the Forex market where I traded for a long time, but it's playing just beautifully as well in crypto. All right, guys, I'll break it there.